Behind the high walls of Buckingham Palace, there has always been more than the public story. No, not the one shaped by ceremonies or official words, but a quieter narrative revealed through silences, through who is present, and through who is no longer invited inside the frame. For years, Prince Andrew's position within the royal family was understood by appearance alone. He was there, he arrived, he stood where he always had. But in recent times, that pattern has shifted, and those shifts speak louder than any statement ever could. Nowhere is this more visible than at the King's annual pre-Christmas lunch, one of the most carefully managed moments in the royal calendar. Every detail is intentional. The order of arrivals, the brief smiles, the calm exchanges with the press. These images exist for one purpose: to project unity, stability, and control. Each year, the same message is sent to the world. Everything behind the gates is exactly as it should be. But this time, the story wasn't told by who arrived. It was told by who didn't. This year, the ritual unfolded exactly as expected. The Prince and Princess of Wales arrived first, setting the tone. Senior members followed, each appearance reinforcing the image the palace works hard to protect. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie stepped out smiling, dressed for winter, relaxed, comfortable, and clearly part of the moment. From the outside, everything looked balanced, predictable, normal. But one detail broke the pattern. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor did not arrive. At the very same time the cameras were flashing outside Buckingham Palace, Andrew was photographed miles away in Windsor Great Park, alone. The rain had soaked the ground, turning paths into mud, slowing the horse beneath him. There were no companions riding beside him, no exchange of words, no suggestion this was a casual outing. Just distance. Physical and symbolic, the contrast couldn't have been sharper. Inside the palace gates, warmth, tradition, and controlled familiarity. Outside, rain, silence, and separation. No statement was needed. The message was already visible. What made the moment impossible to ignore was timing. As Andrew rode alone through wet ground, his daughters were being photographed arriving in warm cars, smiling, welcomed, and included. Father and daughters separated not by miles, but by status. And in that split frame, the royal family said more than it ever could out loud. Body language expert Judy James commented on the images, describing Andrew's appearance as dark and almost theatrical, comparing it to a figure moving around the edges of a celebration he could no longer join. She noted that his posture was upright but rigid, and that his expression showed no sign of enjoyment. Riding, often associated with relaxation or freedom, appeared instead as an act of endurance. According to James, when someone is excluded from a family event, the usual way to reduce emotional impact is to remain out of sight or to appear settled elsewhere. In this case, the public nature of the ride had the opposite effect. It emphasized absence rather than softening it. Andrew's exclusion from the King's pre-Christmas lunch itself was not unexpected. He has not attended such gatherings in recent years. Since stepping back from royal duties, losing his military titles and patronages, and facing ongoing fallout from his association with Jeffrey Epstein, his role within the royal family has steadily narrowed. King Charles has been explicit about his position. He has publicly described Andrew's actions as serious lapses of judgment and aligned himself with survivors of abuse. The message has been consistent. Andrew no longer represents the monarchy. At the same time, the royal family has drawn a careful distinction. Andrew's daughters remain included. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie continue to receive invitations to major family events. They attend when they choose. They are photographed, welcomed, and treated as part of the wider royal circle. This separation between father and daughters has been maintained deliberately. This approach is not new. In previous years, Andrew and his former wife were absent from Christmas gatherings, while their daughters attended. This year confirmed that the arrangement is settled rather than temporary. The monarchy has made clear where the boundary lies. Drop a like if you love a bit of royal drama, and subscribe so you don't miss the next tea spill, and share it before your group chat hears it first. The solitary ride through Windsor Great Park also occurred at a moment of wider change for Andrew. Reports indicate that he is nearing the end of his time at Royal Lodge, the 30-room property in Windsor that he has occupied for many years. Once associated with senior status and permanence, the residence now represents a chapter drawing to a close. According to multiple reports, Andrew is expected to move in the new year to a much smaller property on the King's private Sandringham estate. Some of his belongings are believed to have already been placed into storage as preparations quietly continue. The move reflects a reduction in space, visibility, and standing. This gradual withdrawal mirrors accounts given by former palace staff over many years. Long before public scandal dominated headlines, individuals who worked behind palace doors described a pattern of behavior that rarely reached public view. One former maid, Charlotte Briggs, later spoke about her experiences working inside Buckingham Palace during Andrew's most controversial years. While her position appeared prestigious from the outside, she described it as emotionally exhausting. She recalled entering Andrew's bedroom each morning, uncertain which small detail might provoke anger. One incident remained particularly clear in her memory. After drawing the bedroom curtains as instructed, she was confronted the next, mourning over a tiny gap between them. According to her account, Andrew berated her in front of other staff members until she was left in tears. The flaw, she said, was barely visible. Former staff also described Andrew's insistence on a precise arrangement of stuffed animals on his bed. Dozens of toys were positioned in a specific pattern. Former Royal Protection Officer Paul Page later confirmed that a laminated diagram existed, showing exactly how each item should be placed. For those responsible for maintaining the room, this arrangement was a source of constant anxiety. Any deviation risked reprimand. What appeared to some as eccentricity functioned as a mechanism of control. Charlotte's account was consistent with others. Former royal chef Dan Otway stated that Andrew was the most difficult and demanding royal he served. While other members of the family showed courtesy or gratitude, Andrew was remembered for criticism and entitlement. Paul Page described Andrew as arrogant and rude, recalling encounters marked by condescension. When Page once challenged Andrew's tone, colleagues warned him that he risked his job. Page later remarked that bullies often avoid reporting resistance because it exposes their behavior. Another account came from Andrew's former valet, who lived in accommodation connected to Andrew's private rooms. When Andrew's dog woke during the night, the valet was summoned to take the animal outside while Andrew remained in bed. Security officers later recalled finding the valet exhausted in palace gardens during the early hours, smoking and voicing frustration. He reportedly said he could not stand Andrew. These experiences unfolded within a rigid palace hierarchy that discouraged complaints. Staff depended on housing, pensions, and long-term employment. Escalating concerns about a senior royal, particularly one widely regarded as the Queen's favored son, was perceived as risky. Former staff described the system as archaic. In most workplaces, verbal abuse would be addressed. Inside the palace, fear and loyalty often prevented accountability. Patterns of behavior were noted even earlier. Biographers and former staff have described boundary-pushing conduct during Andrew's childhood that was managed quietly rather than corrected. Former partners later echoed similar observations. Actress Vicky Hodge described him as self-absorbed and immature in the early 1980s. Susanna Constantine later referred to entitlement and frequent outbursts. At the time, such accounts were often dismissed. When allegations related to Jeffrey Epstein emerged, These earlier accounts took on new significance. Andrew's friendship with Epstein reinforced perceptions of a man who believed himself exempt from normal rules. Andrew has consistently denied wrongdoing. His 2019 television interview raised further questions rather than resolving them. In 2022, he settled a civil lawsuit brought by Virginia Giuffre without admitting liability, reportedly for a substantial sum. The settlement avoided public testimony but did little to repair public trust. That same year, Queen Elizabeth II removed Andrew's military titles and royal patronages, and he lost the right to use his HRH style in any official capacity. The decision marked a decisive break. For former staff, the moment felt like delayed recognition. Experiences long dismissed or minimized were finally reflected in institutional consequences. Today, Andrew remains physically close to royal spaces but symbolically distant. He rides through familiar parks and lives near long-held estates, yet remains outside the public life of the monarchy. The photographs from the rain-soaked ride captured more than a single afternoon. They reflected a long transition from centrality to exclusion, a figure once prominent now moving at the margins. Whether the ride was intentional or coincidental is ultimately secondary. What is clear is that the monarchy has drawn a line and no longer attempts to disguise it. As Christmas approaches at Sandringham, the family gathers and traditions continue. Andrew remains outside the frame. The silence surrounding him now speaks for itself.